Hey, what's going on out there, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot. Welcome to another edition of Disney 101. Disney 101, we are officially back and at it after a 1-week hiatus. Not even a hiatus. I mean, if you were following us on Twitter, we were pretty active on that, and good to chat with everyone on there during my trip to LA. But we're back at it here, and excited to be back with each and every one of you guys there. We have Steve on the other side coming at us from Orlando, Florida, the Sunshine State. How's it going out there, Steve?
Good. I hear it's not. I mean, right over here, the sun is shining. But I hear that in other parts of Central Florida, not so much. But
Uh,
it's Central Florida, and it's still, even though it's the fall in most other places, it's still nice and sunny here. So can't complain.
well, there you go. And I realized that with everything going on, it was probably a poor taste comment from me to call it Sunshine State. How is the weather over there? Because we've heard, obviously, with everything going on with the hurricane, is everything, you guys are okay over there?
Yeah, everything was fine over here. I mean, luckily at least this time everything kind of blew past us. It hit the Gulf and it hit the Panhandle more than us. But yeah, it's I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
not too bad over here.
Well, and thoughts and prayers, obviously, with those folks that are dealing with trouble over there. And I know the American Red Cross has set up a good system there. If you'd like to donate, we'll throw it in the little comment section here on the YouTube video. But kind of moving on to other things. Wanted to quickly give you guys a little bit of a kind of a, I guess, advisory, so to speak. I am slightly under the weather. Those of you guys who follow me over at Watch Wrestle Pod, I put up that ridiculous little wrestling potpourri the other day and coughed my way through it for about 27 minutes. It was rough, and I apologize for doing that. So if that happens today, I'll do my best to quickly mute the mic so you guys will not see that. But I've been feeling a little better, so hopefully all systems are go. But how was your last couple of weeks here while I was down on the West Coast?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, we know, as you know, we went to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party a couple of weeks ago, and other than that, we've kind of been keeping it low key over here.
Do you guys have any big blowaway plans for Halloween proper coming up next week?
Let's see. We are taking Stella to one of her obedience classes, so that'll be fun.
Oh, there you go. Very cool.
No, other than that, no, not really. But it'll be good because we're trying to get the barking out of her. So we're trying to like desensitize her to stuff.
Oh,
So
wow.
kids ringing the doorbell all night is going to be great for that because she's just going to be barking nonstop, and hopefully, she kind of like gets it out of her system because that's one of the things that we're hoping it to like you might hear her now just barking away in the background just because it's like when she's barking, we're supposed to not pay attention to her at all until like a good time after she stopped barking because she's doing it for attention. So
Gotcha.
but yeah, so if you hear a dog barking in the background, that's her.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I what I won't do then is drop a little won't give her the old shout out I usually give her over the air whenever I hear her jumping on to say hello and doing things to that extent.
Yeah, she wants attention.
Trying to work on that. But special thanks also to all of our new followers over there, considering we're almost at 500 followers, which is crazy over on the Twitter. And if you'd like to follow us over on Twitter, you can. We're at Disney 101 Pod. We do our best to remain relatively active on there. Certainly can, I'm working, and I know Steve's also working on trying to consistently be a little more up to date on there. There was one of these things where this past week, obviously, it was over on the West Coast. I spent a couple days in LA, which we'll get to in a bit. But I went down to Las Vegas and checked out the actual store where they filmed the show Pawn Stars, which is over on the History Network. If you get a chance to check that out over on our Twitter, I put up some pictures of some old Disney memorabilia that they had from the parks and some old toy lines, everything to that extent. They had a couple little sections there for Disney, and took some pictures and put them up on line for you guys. But let's get into this week's news and everything going on in the world there. Steve, you had said that you had something that you wanted to kind of get into prior to right off the bat about a potential Indiana Jones land that could be coming to Disney World.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool that, just kind of there are rumors, as we all know, that kind of just pop up here and there. Um, and this is from Orlando Weekly, so it's you can find it on orlandoweekly.com. It's an Indiana Jones mini land, maybe finally finding a home at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's been no secret that Disney is looking to give Indiana Jones a more significant presence at Walt Disney World. As is typical with these types of projects, it seems various teams at Imagineering have been assigned to flesh out exactly what Indiana Jones would look like at each of the non-Magic Kingdom resorts for Walt Disney World. I think probably the most obvious place would be in Hollywood Studios, just because it's more of a movie IP than anything else. But I would love to see the Indiana Jones ride that's at Disneyland make its way over to our side. I think that would be awesome. Or just maybe just a little bit more than the extra. Right now it's just a stunt show, which is a great stunt show and it's cool. But I love Indiana Jones, and there's so much that you can do with it that I feel like there's a lot of potential there. And with the potential of a new movie coming out in 2021, now would be the time for them to start kind of making those kinds of moves.
Yeah, no, Indiana Jones, one of my favorite attractions in the park, in Disneyland rather. I agree. I think that'd be a good little land to be there. Are they saying where it would be?
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, if it was in Epcot, it would be in a place. So it says at Epcot, the proposals ranged from Indiana Jones in the yet to be announced Brazil or India pavilions to an overlay of an existing boat ride in the park. It seems those proposals were quickly shot down, leaving Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom to fight it out over which park would better benefit from the iconic franchise. So, there's a couple of different places. A big one would be, if you put it in Animal Kingdom, you could set it in India where the second movie takes place, where the Temple of Doom takes place. Or it'd be easier to find, if it's Animal Kingdom, that's kind of the go-to place, I guess it would be, is somewhere in the India area. Or, Hollywood Studios, you could probably put it right in that area where the existing attraction is. So, but I feel like Hollywood Studios right now has so much else going on with the Toy Story land and Star Wars land that, it would be a nice little addition to kind of maybe take a little bit of pressure off Star Wars Land if you can kind of get the two to coincide. It's not like you're releasing movies that are trying to fight with each other. You're releasing two different lands that are trying to fight with each other, which would be a much better idea to try and take all of this pressure off of Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, no, that I completely agree, especially because of that's going to be a major juggernaut, and that might actually encourage folks to head down to the parks, and that might be, everyone gets excited over everything. I don't know how many Disney enthusiasts are necessarily huge fans of the Avatar franchise, but when that world opened up down there, everyone was super stoked for it. So I feel like everyone's just so excited for everything new. Obviously, Star Wars is going to be massive, but it'll be interesting to see. I think that there's definitely something to be said for kind of what you mentioned there. If they roll out different lands at the same time, that could be really smart.
Yeah.
Speaking of new lands, it was announced that the rollout is coming for the new Marvel Land over at Disneyland itself. This is one that I'm pretty excited for, and I'm guessing there's no Marvel Land coming to World right now, as they're still, I guess, trying to figure out kind of, I guess, what to do in terms of with everything going on with the, I guess, everything with Universal Studios still having stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of where they're at right now for Walt Disney World. They're very limited to the kind of stuff that they can put in right now, because of that contract with Universal. So I think it's kind of, there's been different versions of it going back and forth, and I feel like that the agreement has kind of changed a couple of times. Because originally it was there is absolutely zero stuff that can happen anywhere on the Walt Disney World Resort. And then they said, okay, well, as long as it's not inside the parks, it's fine. So you got to see stuff at downtown Disney, now Disney Springs, you had the Marvel headquarters popping up. Anytime there was a special monorail that was there was like a Thor monorail that was advertising Thor. There was an Avengers monorail that was advertising the first Avengers. But it was interesting because even those monorails couldn't be on the Epcot line. It could only be the Magic Kingdom or the Resort line because the Epcot line technically goes inside Epcot for a little bit. So you couldn't even have the monorail of the Avengers monorail be the Epcot line because it goes inside the park technically. So it was kind of interesting to see this, the Marvelness slowly kind of seep into Disney World.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that they actually our friend Tom Corliss over at Walt Disney World News Today. Check his stuff out. Is just does a great job over there. Check them out for all your Disney news, and he put out the entire full attraction, restaurant, and store lineup. Revealed 4 Marvel Superhero Land, and obviously this is replacing Bug Land that was over in Disneyland, which I'll give myself a little pat on the back for, because when we first went to Disneyland 3 years ago, I had told my wife, I said, Bugs Land, of all things to have a land for, they really made an entire land based off the movie A Bug's Life? I'd be stunned if this was here for too much longer, and of course it's not. But that being said, I'll run through some of these here, and you can give me your thoughts on what you think about them as we go along. So the plan right now is to roll out this in Disney's California Adventure, and I think this is a major thing. When I talk about DCA a little later on, I think right now DCA definitely needs a couple extra attractions. So this is going to be really big for them, and starting phase 1 is about to roll out in 2020, and then phase 2 will be within the next year or two thereafter. So this is going to be where the former Bug's Life was going to be, and the first attraction is going to be where the It's Tough to Be a Bug Theater. Now, is this Tough to Be a Bug is still in Disney World, correct?
Yes, it is. It is. It's actually kind of inside, underneath the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom.
Gotcha. Which makes sense. Actually, I love that location for it, at least.
It's such a cool location, and I really like the show, but my wife absolutely hates it. And not that it's a bad show at all, because it's really fun. It's entertaining. You get a lot of those jump scares and a lot of like the cool stuff that pops up. She actually didn't like it because at one point something happened where she one of the stingers popped up a little bit too hard and she hurt her back on it
nice.
or something like that. So it's not that she doesn't like it because it's not a good attraction. She just kind of isn't keen on getting stabbed in the back.
Right. No, well, who would be, I guess. But I will say, I actually love the attraction. I was bummed to see that attraction is gone, too. I thought that could have been the one piece of a Bugs Land that they kept, because it was really the only thing in the Bugs Land that I thought was really worth much. But it is being replaced and repurposed for the new Spider-Man attraction, where guests will be given a web shooter of their own to use. The ride appears to be mostly screen-based, like 3D in nature. So think Toy Story Midway Mania, but with guests shooting webs instead of darts, balls, and rings. The entrance to the building will be rerouted to the opposite side so it can be accessed from the hub of this new land. The central hub is a large Avengers symbol in the ground that is surrounded by all the land's offerings. So think of this as the Avengers California campus. It says the Spider-Man QQ is attached to the former tissue box restrooms of A Bug's Land. So yeah, what do you think of that?
I think it sounds pretty cool. It's the idea. I think it could be a Toy Story Mania. I would love it to look a little bit more like the Men in Black ride, which is a very similar ride, actually also to Buzz Lightyear at Disneyland, not necessarily at Disney World, because the shooter kind of like you can take it out of its holster and like move around with it instead of having to, with the Toy Story ride and the Buzz Lightyear ride at Magic Kingdom, you're kind of limited as to how much you can move around your little, shooter or whatever it is. So I would love to see it a little bit more freeformed.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know you do very well on Midway Mania, but I will say you and Ari may need to be in the same cart next time, because she would be pretty good in Midway Mania while we were at the parks this past go around.
Yeah, I'm usually okay at Toy Story. I am usually a lot better at Buzz Lightyear just because since I worked there, I kind of know some of the tricks and you know some of the things to you know score more points. But you know with Toy Story, it's all reflexes and it's all you know accuracy and hand-eye coordination and stuff. So it's a little bit.
Well, there you go. Then they said there's going to be Doctor Strange having his own show experience where guests get to meet the Avenger in a round courtyard. And it's expected this is going to be similar to the offering that is currently available on the Disney Cruise Line. Now, you've been on some of the cruise lines. Have you seen this show?
I have not seen the show because the show that they mention is special to the Marvel Day at Sea cruises, which is only on very select sailings, and I think most of them are out of New York City, if I'm not mistaken. So I have not had an opportunity to go on the Marvel Day at Sea. We went on the Star Wars Day at Sea. That was awesome. But I have not been on the Marvel Day at Sea cruise, unfortunately, on my bucket list.
Yeah, I mean that's that. I like Doctor Strange, and I will say the show that they have the cool clip on WDW News Today. Doctor Strange looks pretty cool in there. It actually looks like a pretty cool little deal.
Oh, I'm sure if Disney Cruise is putting on a show, it is absolutely amazing.
And is that included with your purchase onto the cruise?
Usually, yeah. So usually what I mean, so I can tell you the way that they did the Star Wars Day at Sea a couple of years ago, at least the one that we went on, basically you signed up for a particular meet and greet. And depending on, you know, like you could say, okay, so, you know, you're going to go to, we ended up going to the bounty hunter slash, I forget who else it was, but it wound up being Boba Fett for us. But there's other like meet and greets that you can go on, but it sounds like might actually be like one of the shows that they would perform on at night. I didn't get a chance to catch the clip, but my kind of what I would think is that it's part of the actual one of the nightly shows, and it's just usually there's a big show that they do. Like there's some of like the Broadway shows and like Broadway style shows, but there's usually like a big one, or it might be part of the deck party, which maybe did in the clip. Was it like in a theater or was it like outside?
It looks like it was in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that it might either be a separate thing, don't quote me on that, or it might just be one of the shows that they do every night.
Gotcha. One of the other things that it seems like they're going to be doing, they said that there's also going to be, in terms of where to eat in the place, it seems like there is going to be a microbrewery. Both a counter service restaurant and microbrewery are in the plans. And I'll give you a guess. Who do you think the microbrewery will be themed after?
Oh, it's Ant-Man. It's got to be, right?
It is, of course, Ant-Man, yes. And there'll also be, I guess, a counter service restaurant as well. I was thinking this would be just about they would do so much business if they did character dining during this. In the land itself, especially because DCA is thoroughly lacking in character dining experiences right now, and I think that would just be awesome if they added that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, right now they just added Black Panther, so he was over there. We didn't get a chance to see him. I'll explain why in a sec. We did see Spider-Man, who was out there way later than he was advertised for doing his thing. Captain America. So if you could imagine those guys out there doing meet and greets during the character dining, I think would be top notch. Then, kind of moving on the list here, as I've shut down seems like I don't have it. Okay. Seems like they're going to be tying in Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Unbelievable attraction. I'm going to get into that a little later. But this is going to basically be, you're going to pretty much be able to see where that's located, or the land will be directly in front of Guardians of the Galaxy. But that is really, really good stuff. Then they said there's going to be a Quinjet, which is going to be located in front of Phase 2 offering. Not flying like the poster, a truly massive Avengers e-ticket attraction that is expected to be a roller coaster. As for the story elements or anything beyond that, details are scarce at this point. All we know is that it's going to be huge in scale. So they're going to do a major attraction for that. And yeah, I mean, that is pretty cool. Because I don't know, other than I guess obviously they have the Incredicoaster now, but other than that, I don't think they have any coasters in DCA. So that's pretty big to be announcing that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you kind of qualify as a roller coaster because, I mean, you could make an argument for the Radiator Springs Racers.
True.
And you can't forget Goofy's Flight School.
Ah, one of my favorites. What am I doing? I don't know why I didn't remember that.
But Goofy's Flight School is different at California Adventure. Did you get a chance to check it out?
Yes, we actually, not only that, but because it's actually a fast pass attraction, so we got it fast pass too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I know it's a little goofy, but as it should be. And Ari and I always scream maniacally with every turn. We usually do this noise, oh, over as each turn.
I know. I was on Primeval World with you, so I know all about that noise.
That's very true. And the kids that were in front of us, because it was like a 4-pack on that little Disney's Sky School little deal. It was 4 of us on there, and the 2 kids in front of us were like, the first kind of looked back at us with the first time we did it, but as we kept doing it, they were laughing hysterically, and I think they were like, these guys are acting like this is the craziest attraction here, which it's clearly not, but we had a good time with it. And then the second time we went on it, it was really struggling to finish, and then I think it broke down right after, so thank God it didn't happen while we were there.
No, but that's the best when you get evac'd off of a ride. That's so cool.
Well, there was a lot. I mean, I'll get into that, but a lot of the attractions were struggling when we were there. But before we get into a little bit more about that trip, Steve, did you want to take a minute and talk about our next news bit?
What was our next news bit?
Oh, it was going to be about the Animal Kingdom and everything closing down a little early there.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's kind of interesting. Where did that go? Because I had it up.
Well, I will start off by just saying that basically what's been announced so far is that they are really messing around with ending attractions at Animal Kingdom earlier than the actual park closes down. I believe this is for budget reasons as to why Disney's doing this. But it really is a little puzzling because of the fact that they seem to be so intent on making this a full-day park and now are scaling back on this. I think that they're reducing some of the attractions. Unfortunately, Steve, your favorite attraction in the park, Rafiki's Planet Watch, has officially come to a close. Did you know this?
I heard, but then I heard it got a state of execution.
I don't know what that means. A state of execution.
Well, okay, so like they announced that it was going to be closing down, but then they said it's not going to be closing down.
Oh, I don't know. I had heard the last day of operation was going to be October 20th.
Right, I had heard that, but then I also heard that it's going to be reopening.
Oh, well, it might come back. Right now, I know it's closed. I've heard that the Safari Adventure that's ending a little earlier than the park closes throughout the day. What are your thoughts on this? On the early closures in the park?
I think it's kind of interesting. The one that kind of stands out to me, that is the most surprising, I guess, is Kilimanjaro Safari, because it wasn't too long ago that they actually changed a lot of the nighttime safari around for it to kind of be a little bit more beneficial, because they knew that the park hours were going to be extending. So they kind of made it so, okay, we know that the park hours are going to be extending. We know people are going to want to ride the safari at night. So they kind of started to change things around a little bit for the nighttime safari. So they added some floodlights, and they actually changed around a couple of the animals. So they actually featured different animals at night versus during the day. So the fact that now that Kilimanjaro Safari is now closing, I found it, so thank you. Kilimanjaro Safari is now closing at 7:45 and will move to a 6:30 p.m. closing beginning in November. And yeah, sure, it's okay with daylight savings and everything. You're going to still be able to ride the safari at night, but I think it's really interesting considering they had gone along with making the transition for a nighttime safari that they're just going to go ahead and start closing it early now. So I think that's the most surprising to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is a major selling point of the actual of being at Animal Kingdom and being there later. And I do think that's a little bit of a bummer. I think that now clearly with the Rafiki's Planet Watch, if they do bring that back, who knows? But I think maybe they're building something else there. But it also just seems like a weird thing for Disney to cut back on.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing. I mean, they're not really okay. So the other things that are closing, Maharaja Jungle Trek and the Gorillas Falls Exploration Trail. Those things closing a little bit earlier isn't necessarily too surprising because those always closed earlier than like the rest of the park. And, you know, it's one of those things where the animals can't be out all the time. So there are going to be things that, okay, so they need the enrichment, they need to be, you know, fed, and, you know, they need a bunch of other things that they kind of can't always do in front of, you know, in their little, you know, kind of containment area. There is a whole back area where they keep all the animals and everything, you know, where it's not like, you know, like a regular zoo where like that is their area. There's, you know, this is kind of the area that they're in when they're feeding and, you know, doing all this other stuff. So they have a whole other area where they sleep at night and stuff. So that probably has something more to do with the fact that it is going to be getting, you know, it is going to start being darker earlier. And also, you know, Kali River Rapids closing at earlier at 7:30 p.m. isn't necessarily a surprise either. You know, I don't necessarily know that I want to be going on Kali River Rapids at 8 o'clock at night when it's going to be that cold out.
I will say it was downright freezing at night at Disneyland. And the big water attraction they have in Disneyland, not Splash Mountain, but there's one in Disney's California Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kali River Rapids, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not called Kali River Rapids, but it's a River Rapids ride. And
Gotcha.
I think it's Grizzly Peak. Maybe?
Grizzly River Run. Yeah. Well, I totally killed this entire family's plan. There was a guy there who was asking his family on the ride, you know, behind me, like, hey, do you get wet on the attraction? And they were like, you kind of get wet. Nothing too bad. And then he asked me, he said, hey, you've been on this ride. Do you get wet? And I said, oh, dude, you get absolutely drenched. And the family got all upset with me because I guess the plan was to get this guy to get on the ride and get incredibly drenched. I didn't know that was their plan at all. But yeah. But I will say, no matter how cold it was at night, there was people all over this attraction. Like, till the close of the park, people were riding this ride and coming out drenched as can be, mouth shivering, and beyond me. I mean, I don't really want to go to the park and get incredibly drenched, but I guess if you do, it's the ride for you.
See, and that's why whenever I'm in line for a ride and someone asks me a question about the ride, I'm always a little bit hesitant to answer honestly, because like I always try and like look at the other people to see how I'm supposed to answer this. You know, because when you're going on a you know like, or like if you're going on a ride with a little kid or something and they're scared about it, I don't know if I'm supposed to answer honestly so that they know what to expect, or if I'm supposed to lie and say, oh no, it's not that bad, like to get them onto the ride. You know, like I never know which way I'm supposed to go with this. Like, am I supposed to say, yeah, no, it's fine, or yeah, no, here's what happened, so you know you're prepared for it.
Right. No. But I mean, it was really funny because they were all like, "Oh, come on, man!" And then he then realized his family was messing with him and was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm like, you're a bunch of douches." Like it's really funny. But yeah. Now, despite that, and people were riding that thing. I mean, DCA closed at 10, and people were on there until 10, which is crazy. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? I know also I did see Muppet Visions also closing a little earlier, but I feel like that's just because probably not that many people who go on Muppet Vision past a certain time, or maybe at all these days, unfortunately. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but there's got to be something up right now for them to keep it going. You gotta, Hollywood Studios is going to be limping along until Star Wars opens up, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like they should have something to just kind of control the crowds away from Toy Story Land. But I did see they are closing down Muppet Vision a little bit early. And what is the deal with the Skyliner? Now that's going to be connecting all the parks together, right?
I know it's going from one side of the property to another. I don't know exactly what it's connecting yet.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, then I will start to go into my my trip here that last week. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, by all means, go for it. I've been waiting for this.
All right. Well, so we did go down to Disneyland last week. Got down there. We had a trip to LA. Well, we had a trip to Nashville. Actually, that was before the trip to LA. There was a couple that a little bit before that. But anyway, we then did a trip down to LA for a few days. Arrived on Sunday. Ended up doing the Griffith Observatory because I'm a major geek for all things planetarium. And Ari enjoys coming because she thinks they're cool, and they last long enough where she's usually able to get a good little nap ski in there. So we went there, did that whole thing, and then on Monday we ended up staying at. We stayed throughout our stay at an extended stay America. Not at all great by any stretch of the imagination. I think the problem with these hotels is that, and the reason we did it is because we just did a Hotwire deal. I feel like if you're doing a Hotwire deal and you're looking for something mid-range, you're going to get the Extended Stay America. It's super close to the parks. It's no joke, like a 15-minute walk, and that walk in the morning is, I think, awesome. I think it's great when you're walking with all the people down that road where everyone is just decked out in their Disney stuff. Everyone's excited to go down there. I like that walk a lot, and I think it's great. It's a cool little area to go through. You get to see it's safe, and you get to see all the little, your Cheesecake Factory and everything else down that line as we were doing it. The hotel itself, kind of lame. The breakfast, it shouldn't even be presented as breakfast. It's literally just like granola bars, some oatmeal, and some muffins. It was rough. And I think the worst part about this hotel is that it, I think, used to be completely smoking rooms. And now they're all non-smoking, but the problem is that when you do make that switch, you can still, if you're susceptible to the smell of smoke and don't like it very much, you can certainly tell. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes you do get what you pay for. And it's the same thing, when you're trying to pinch pennies at Disney World, which, hey, I can't blame anyone for trying to do that. But then when you wind up on one of those KSM hotels on 192, you're going to end up getting what you pay for.
You walk in there, people are running out screaming, and not good. Not good. So we did that. That was what it was. We sacrificed that, knowing we would be sacrificing that. Because at the end of the day, we were only going to be in LA for 4 days. We knew we were going to be out and about the entire day, each one of the 4 days. So it was kind of like, all right, we only need to use this to sleep. Whatever. We'll survive. We'll make it work. And it was kind of just what it was. But we ended up getting there for Disneyland when the park opened. We were greeted by all of the big. Now, have you seen pictures of the Halloween stuff that are out at Disneyland Park?
Oh, yeah.
Is that similar to what it's like at Disney World with the big Mickey Jack-o'-lantern when you first walk in?
Yes.
Gotcha. So that's huge. That's something that, honest to goodness, if you have the opportunity, go out of your way to get those pictures taken right away because the lines for those are going to be insane the entire day. I know the major thought that most people have, specifically with Disneyland, because of how many attractions there are in the park, you want to try to get as many attractions in right away real quick. What I would say is set your first Fast Pass the second you walk in if you have the app or whatever, if you're going to get those Fast Passes, and then come back and get rid of all the photo ops if you're planning on doing them. We did the photo op in the front of in the Mickey Jack-o'-lantern. Then we did the photo op in the back of the Mickey Jack-o'-lantern because he's winking I mean, he's doing both, and it was what it was. But we got that done. That was fun. And then one of the coolest things about kind of that Main Street USA area, and same as Disneyland in DCA, is all the characters are there in their Halloween costume, which is really cool. Mickey was out and about. I think he was rocking some sort of weird out. I don't know what he was, a wizard of some sort. Minnie, same thing. She was out there. Goofy was rocking an epic Goofy skeleton costume. Pluto was there. He had something. When you first walk in, they have the Main Street USA deal where they have the fire station there. And so they had the firefighters who were Chip and Dale. And they also had a couple of different villains that they don't normally have, like the dude from Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I'm not, you shake your head at me for not knowing who Judge Frollo was. But I will say, no one on that line knew who Judge Frollo was. People came, looked at me, hey, who was that? And he was phenomenal because he wouldn't let anyone take a selfie with him. He was absolutely having none of it. It was awesome. It was great to see. And he was also utterly disgusted with all of the antics of everyone else around the park. Played the villain to the perfect extent. And a lot of the different villains were in and out of there. I know Cruella de Vil was there at one point. And some of them that are not normally there. So that was really cool and a good way to start off there. Did they have characters in their costumes when you were there?
Yeah. Well, most of the characters and costumes are going to be in the parade.
Oh, okay.
Most of the other meet and greets are going to be special meet and greets. So the base, the ones that you would normally go and meet with, most of them are going to be in a costume. So like Mickey is in a costume, Minnie is in a costume, Goofy is in a costume, Pluto is in a costume. But then you also have like Jack and Sally and you know those meet and greet characters that aren't usually out. So
yeah, I will say that one of the things I noticed about Disneyland, it didn't feel like they had a bunch of stuff that was specific to the Halloween party. Other than fireworks. And I know there were a lot of people who came and were really bummed that there was no fireworks on display when we went there on Monday. It was only Phantasmic. And then they also had the Paint the Night Parade at Disneyland California Adventure. But other than that, there was no fireworks at all. And I think people showed up and asked, and the cast members were telling these people that the parade was, the fireworks were canceled. That was not the case. They weren't canceled. It just simply didn't, they were never scheduled. So I don't know why they said they were canceled. So I think the only difference at Disneyland with the parties is you're getting your trick-or-treating, you're getting your parade, and you're getting the fireworks. The special meet and greets, at least the only one I believe they had, were the characters in costume, and then also the Jack and Sally. Now, I will say Jack and Sally was 100% worth it. You didn't see Jack and Sally when you went, right?
we saw them. We just didn't meet with them.
They are talking characters. They interact with you. They talk. That was cool. We did not expect it, and they were among the best character meet and greets we had done in terms of them and them selling everything and how funny they were. I was wearing a Venom shirt that day, and they were acting like I had a monster growing out of my shirt, and Jack was pretty horrified by it. So that was a great little meet and greet. Can't suggest it enough. Make sure you go and do that. And one of the other things that we did that was a lot of fun was the Ghostly Galaxy Space Mountain. Sorry, I don't know why I lost my train of thought there. Now, you said there's a Space Mountain. They kind of just put it black when you went, right?
Yeah, a Deep Space Mountain was just, it was completely, absolutely even more pitch black than it usually is, and with a separate soundtrack.
You see, for this one, it was basically like they had everything about a ghost, and it was basically you were chasing around this ghost, and it was awesome. I mean, it just felt like you were like flying along with it. We went on it twice, and somebody had complained that they used to have the walls, the ghosts in the walls that were coming out. They got rid of this, and I'm assuming they got rid of this. One of the other people had said the reason why they got rid of this is because it was scaring kids too much when they were running, and the kids were tripping over themselves and getting hurt, which is why they got rid of, I guess, like in the queue, there was like ghosts that were petrifying the kids, I guess, and so they got rid of them. So that's what they said. But a cool moment there was the end of the night. We went back so we started with Ghost Galaxy, because I always feel like if you're going to do your fast passes, you should bang out 2 big ones in the first 3 hours. First 3 hours in the park, they're your money hours. You got to get those done, and you got to try to go on some of your bigger attractions. So first 3 hours in the park, we banged out Space Mountain, we did Big Thunder Mountain, we did Indiana Jones, and one of the really cool things that they did, excuse me, here we go. One of the really cool deals that they did was at the end of the night, we went back on the ride again, and we were just so excited. Everyone's super stoked and pumped up for it. And it was the end of Sunday Night Football. So I have now the app on my phone, Hulu with live TV. I streamed the end of the game while we were waiting on the line, and suddenly this became like a sports bar in the queue for Space Mountain, because I was surrounded by a bunch of fathers and a bunch of younger guys kind of around my phone, and I was very impressed. I'm very surprised how many Aaron Rodgers fans there were in Los Angeles and how few San Francisco 49er fans there were, because we were all jumping up and down and screaming and high-fiving, and it was a very cool moment.
I mean, does that really surprise you, though?
Well, I mean, the Niners haven't been good for quite some time. It's been a couple of years, but nobody. I'll say this, from being down in LA, from a sports perspective, it's LeBron 1, the Rams 2, and then the Dodgers way below that, despite being in the freaking World Series. You would have no clue that they were really even much of a thing until they got to Game 7. And then in Vegas, while I was in Vegas for Game 7, people were really excited for them there. And you would have no idea that the Chargers even played in Los Angeles if you went to visit.
I mean, when you have the choice of the Rams, the 7-0 Rams, and not that the Chargers are doing too bad, but I mean, come on.
No, and they play also in Carson City in a really small stadium. It's rough. But so we did that. That was really cool. We got an opportunity to go to the Mexican restaurant over there. I have it written down. I can pull it up. Do you know what it's called off the top of your little Mexican whatever it is? Toscano del Mexicano restaurant of some sort. We went there and we tried a couple of the different Halloween-themed desserts. Erica had like an horchata deal. That was really good. I had a little like chocolate pudding type deal with the skull, the big skull, and I'm going to put these videos. We have videos of each one. We'll put them up on our YouTube page. And that video of whatever that chocolate mousse was, and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt, but you have to see the video that we did of this just to see how much of a faker I am in saying that it wasn't so bad. Because you could read it right on my facial expression that I was having absolutely none of this dessert. That said, though,
what is it?
It was in the Toscano del Mex, the Mexican restaurant over there. Put like Mexican restaurant Disneyland.
There's
Toscano.
So you got your choice for Mexican food at Disneyland is the Cocina Cucamonga Mexican Grill.
We didn't go there.
The Festival Foods Marketplace, the Paradise Garden Grill, Rancho del Zocalo.
There you
go. Rancho del Zocalo.
Yep, that's where we went. And I had some nachos, and the nachos were fine. They were good. Erica had some of the street tacos. Those were really, really good. And then at the those were kind of something that we were doing there. But at the barbecue place, there's a barbecue short deal there. It's a walk up, like a quick service barbecue place. It's if you look at the barbecue restaurants there, you'll see it right there. It's like Bankley Barbecue or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Am I looking at American food?
Yes,
I would imagine. So. Yeah, because they don't have a barbecue, so I'm guessing it's going to be American.
Yeah, and it wasn't the big one, the big Bear barbecue or any of that. Hungry Bear. It wasn't Hungry Bear. Because I will say, one thing I noticed the difference between Disney World and Disneyland. Disneyland is not too deep on the food places to go to. Specifically, getting rid of the whatever it was, the Ariel's Grotto, and replacing it with a Lamplight Lounge is not really the same thing. There are still people eating at the Lamplight Lounge, but that's at DCA. But it really is. They're deeply missing that character dining. There's only the one character dining place, Plaza Inn, when you first go into Disneyland. So what we decided going in was like we were going to try a couple of different holiday type dishes. We were going to try certain things, and we were just going to kind of snack it through the day.
Well, and that's you have to really remember that the clientele, then the majority of the people that go to Disneyland are going to be locals. They're not going for a sit down restaurant and that kind of thing. So they're going for your quick service stuff. It's not, it's like, going to Six Flags and expecting there to be a bunch of different sit down restaurants inside Six Flags. Not that I'm necessarily equating the quality of Six Flags to Disneyland, but you kind of get where I'm going, where it's like it's not a destination in the same way that Walt Disney World is with all of their restaurants and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you could really see it. They did have, and like they also did a really good job, in my opinion, of doing the different types of Halloween type goodies throughout the park. And I think those really kind of shined bright there. They are super big with churros. Like there's a churro cart, it feels like every time you turn around. There was also Mickey's, by the way, just so you know, because I did put this up, Erica had the frozen Abuelita horchata, and I had the orange sugar skull pot de creme. I thought it was the pot de family show. And it was at the Bengal barbecue. That's where we went to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That I saw. Yeah.
Yes. And we had the spiced ham musabi with lemongrass, jasmine rice, and pineapple teriyaki sauce. This was fantastic. Can't put this over enough. This was really, really good. Go out of your way to try that when you go there. And you can go on the Disney Parks blog. They have everything listed there. That's kind of what we did there. We wanted to try some of the things like pumpkin spice beignets, and we wanted to do the Mickey bread with the fangs and all that. We could only do so many different things. We were only there for really 2 days. But it was cool. It was good to go there. I thought Disneyland was great. And then what happened? So the next day, and I'll get to this in a sec, but I'll kind of stick with the parks, and then I'll circle back to Goofy's Kitchen. But the second day of it was Disney's California Adventure. That was on Wednesday. We went there, but on Tuesday we had booked a Malibu wine safari, and we ended up missing our reservation. Now this is a real defining moment here early on in my first year of marriage, because we missed it. This is something that my wife had booked for me kind of as a surprise. And halfway through there, we didn't realize Malibu was so far. So in missing this, we ended up having the option to simply lose out on our reservation and just come and be a little late and miss the first half of the safari. Or they could fit us in the next day at about 1:30, which would have meant that we would have had to go to the Disney California Adventure, leave, travel out to Malibu, and then come back. Now, as Steve knows, I'm the type of person that wants to go to the park, be there from the time it opens until the absolute time that it ends. However, I saw that my wife was excited about doing this Malibu safari, and I decided to kind of take one on the chin. And so that is what we decided to do. So rather than going to DCA for the entire day, we went early in the morning, went for 3 hours in the morning, and then left, went to the Malibu wine safari, and came back and ended up staying there at the end of the day. Got to be proud of me, no?
I am. I'm very proud of you, actually, yeah.
Very, very uncharacteristic of me to roll with the punches, but that's what we did. And I will say, right now there's only, I'd say, about 11 or 12 different attractions that are still at DCA. Again, I think they'll do real well with everything going on, kind of with the change. And you could do most of them pretty quickly because most of them are Fast Pass on the Max Pass app. I'd say the only ones that weren't were the Pixar wheel, which used to be the Mickey wheel and is still Mickey wheel. Didn't change anything about it. And that's really the only one that you'll probably have to wait for that's not on the MaxPass app. That's the major difference between the two parks. Disneyland doesn't have like any attractions on the MaxPass app. It's literally like 6 attractions, and a lot of the bigger ones. Like there's no Peter Pan attraction on there, so Peter Pan's constantly an hour long. There's no all of those types of attractions, Mr. Toad, Alice in Wonderland. We ended up missing a lot of those because they had such big waits, and you spoil yourself when you do the MaxPass app because you're just so used to, boom, you bang it out, you get on the next thing, you set up the next thing, and you're good to go. And what ends up happening is you don't want to wait for 40 minutes for an attraction. You're just like, screw it. And so we ended up missing a portion of them at Disneyland. From DCA, even though we were only there really 6 combined hours, we got mostly everything in. We did the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. We did the we did Guardians. We did Soarin'. We did the whatever it was with the Cars Land deal, Radiator Springs Racers, and all that. And we did all those real early. Then we had an Incredicoaster Fast Pass. Actually, you know what? We had a Goofy School Fast Pass, and it ended up breaking down. So we got a multiple experiences Fast Pass, and I was like, all right, I'm going to hang on to this Fast Pass multiple experiences in case they can get Incredicoaster going, and I could convince Ari to go on the ride. So that kind of became my day's mission. Like, let me get Ari to go on the ride with me. I'm going to hang on to the multiple experiences, and the Incredicoaster was down for the entire day. And I will say, it would have just been real easy for the folks there, the cast members, to say, hey, it is what it is. It's down. We're not going to get it back up and going. If you missed out, I'm sorry. They worked on it literally from the time the park opened until like until literally about 8 o'clock, when there's just 2 hours left in the park. They finally got it going, and they got it on for us, which I thought was really cool.
Just for you guys.
Well, I don't know if it was just for us, but this is not the first. This is not the first time they've done that. The people at Disneyland DCA have done this with Radiator Springs, where it's taken the entire day for them to get it going, and they get it going. Wouldn't it be? Do you feel like that's just something they're just working on, just for the few folks that kind of like? Wouldn't it be easier for them to just say, "Hey, it ain't happening, so sorry, come back tomorrow"?
It would be, yeah, but that's what we did at Disney World. Also, when I was in Tomorrowland, it was, okay, so Space Mountain, if we have to bring Space Mountain up, if it's if the park closes at 9 and we can get it up at 8 o'clock, we're going to get it up. There's not that oh, well, gosh, it's already 8:30. I guess we're just going to call it. Most of the time you want to bring it up as much as you can because one, that it's that courtesy piece. It's that piece of, okay, we want to make sure that the guests have the best experience possible. Absolutely. It also kind of, there's a certain pride involved too, to know that you can do it, that, okay, and depending, it all comes back to the team and everything. And, the sense of, okay, we can do this. We as a team can accomplish this, So there's to do it for the guests, but also to do it for yourself. So, depending on where you are, you always get that kind of feeling.
Yeah, it was really cool of them. Shout out to all the folks that were working on that throughout the day, and the folks who had to stand in front of the attraction. And there were people who waited on that line from the time it broke down all day and refused to get off the line and just waited till it opened up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is like, what are you doing? Go do other things. Like, what are you thinking? But they did. Highlight attraction for me, first and foremost, in the Disneyland aspect of things, the Nightmare Before Christmas was a huge deal. Obviously, they had the Jack and Sally thing. They're doing the 25th anniversary of the Night Before Christmas, so you had Oogie Boogie everywhere. I mean, Oogie Boogie popcorn holder. Oogie Boogie was the top piece of Disneyland's California Adventure when you first walked in. He was everywhere. Nightmare Before Christmas was everywhere. And the Haunted Mansion that became Nightmare Before Christmas, it was fantastic. I have a little of it recorded from what I did, and then I'm enjoying the attraction so much I stopped recording it. I completely forgot that I was. But it was really cool, and I mean, Steve, you had to see this to be believed. Have you seen any of the video of this online at all?
Yeah, I have, and I mean, it looks incredible.
I wonder if they're going to. You think they'll just make it a Nightmare Before Christmas attraction?
Uh, no.
Because it's a big.
I would, because there's always that there's something special about it being special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, it would be great to celebrate Christmas all year round. It's great to celebrate Halloween all year round. But there's something special about being special. That's why, you have it instead of the first time, it was a huge hit from the get-go. And, there's a reason why they didn't just go and say, oh, why don't we just do this all year round? If they made a separate Nightmare Before Christmas attraction, I'd be all for it. But I think it's going to stay the way it is for now.
I agree. And I mean, the Haunted Mansion's pretty iconic. But when you're in there, and instead of, no windows, no walls, that whole deal with the whole everything falling down, and Jack pops down from the top and gets you ready for that. It's like, holy crap, this is great. And it was just so much fun. Can't recommend that enough. And with that being said, my favorite attraction in DCA is the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. And the way that they did this with first Mission Breakout and then the Halloween-themed Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. So how do you think they made this a different attraction other than obviously just the obvious changing of everything? What do you think they did to make this different?
Did they add anything in the queue?
They didn't add anything too much in the queue. It's all about Rocket and Groot in the second one. They're the only two that are a part of it.
Okay.
What they did was they allow the cast members to be a part of the attraction. You go in there, the cast members have lost they can't find each other. The cast members are so involved the first time you go on in terms of making sure they give you all the rules, and they give you virtually nothing the second time around to make it seem like, well, shit, something's really gone on. I'm sorry, but something's gone wrong here during the Halloween attraction. And to see how much the cast members were into it was so much fun. Our cast member, who was like the main cast member of the actual attraction, they play a major role in this attraction. Without them, it doesn't really work. And he did such a great job while being a part of this that it was cool, and you could just tell that these guys probably have worked this attraction for a long time, and now they have an opportunity to be a part of it and be a part of the magic, and they look like they were just having the time of their life.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know when with Pirates of the Caribbean, for example, or with Haunted Mansion, when they have those special overlays where the cast can kind of get in on it a little bit, when you can kind of stretch that guest interaction, it makes it so much better. It's so much cooler.
Yeah, it was, one of the things, I don't know if there's video of the Halloween-themed attraction. You're going up and down about 5,000 times. So it would be quite hard to be able to film the thing. I was thinking about doing it for our YouTube thing here, but it would really be a difficult deal to do because of how much you're going up and down. And part of the attraction is also that you have to scream in order to get Rocket through his mission. So you have everybody screaming due to a mix of both the attraction and how many times you're going up and down, the death metal that is playing while it's going on. They have a great little tune there. Hang on one second. Muted the microphone, so you only got to see me coughing up a lung rather than hearing the sounds. But I'm back. We'll get through this here. And also people that were just screaming for fun. And so it was awesome. And it was a lot of fun. I can't put over the attraction enough. And it was just cool that each one of the parks gave you something different that was Halloween themed and got you really into it. And then when we thought the night was over, the Incredicoaster opened back up. And Ari was feeling real brave, I guess, because she went on the attraction. We loved the attraction. I will say that adding the Incredibles to California Screamin' and just slowing down the coaster on the top, which I'm sure is the problem, by the way. I think the animatronics with it slowing down at the top is why it keeps having so many problems with the queue, and they've had a lot of problems with this. But it was worth it. It was so much fun and smooth as a baby's bottom. I mean, this ride was great. Never once did I fear it doing any problems or anything like that. And we enjoyed it so much that we had one last Fast Pass before the night was over to go and do Radiator Springs again. We did that, then jet and ran all the way to the final ride there right at 10 p.m. and got on Incredicoaster for a second time. So I will say, do the cast members get annoyed when people are running to the attraction at the end of the night?
No. I mean, I never did. I'm sure there are some cast members that do, but, you know, most of the time they're good about not showing it. But, you know, it's the same kind of thing where I'm going to have to stay here until the last guest leaves one way or the other. So, you know, I mean, the closing cast members kind of know that anyway. And it's not the kind of thing where, you know, you're the last person in the restaurant or the last person in the grocery store or, you know, something like that, where we know one way or the other we're closing right here at 10 and we're going to just knock all this out. So whether you're there at 9:55 or there at 9:59 or whatever it is, you know that you have to be standing out there until 10 o'clock. So what's the difference?
I will say, and I'll get your thoughts on this. So at the end of the night, when 10 o'clock hit, they brought more cars on the track for the Incredicoaster to speed it up and get through the last line. Do they do that and not do it earlier in the day, which would keep traffic flowing, to kind of disguise the fact that there's not that many attractions in the park? Or do they just add them at the end because they want to get as many people there and don't do it like that throughout the day, I guess, due to costs and also due to the more likelihood it'll break down with more?
It's more likely that it's due to that or due to just the fact that, you know, certain roller coasters you can only operate a certain amount of cars before you start getting backed up. So if you know, okay, we're going to kind of do one and done with some of these guys where we can, okay, you know, just shoot out. And then once this car has made it back to the station after doing its run, we're going to take it off again anyway.
Gotcha.
It's easy to do that at the end of the ride than it is, okay, we know we have a really long wait beginning at this part of the day right now. Let's put some extra let's put some extra trains on there to knock this out. It's logistically, it doesn't make as much sense as it does to do it at the end of the night.
And a couple things I'll give you guys and I know we've ran a little long. In looking back, we should have probably done a separate episode, maybe a bonus episode on my trip, and then done a full episode here because we also had 2 weeks of news to catch up on. And so, you know, but it kind of at this point we've committed. So, but I will say, coming to some of the tricks to the trade, I realized. You can absolutely see the fireworks that are happening at Disneyland. If you want to see those and can't go because you don't have tickets to the Halloween party, you could see them from the road. We were coming back from Malibu. We went to Nobu in Malibu. And then on the way back, we came back and saw the entire fireworks show like right there. And you could see and hear mostly everything if you go to that little area where in between the parks when you're first walking in. You can go and see that. So I know a lot of people are bummed they can't see the fireworks and there's no fireworks. If you're there, let's say you're going over and you're by Disney's California Adventure and then you want to hang out kind of in that area at the end of the night to watch the fireworks. I saw a lot of people doing that when we were leaving. So if you don't have that park hopper ability with the Disneyland closing at 6, you can go to DCA, do your thing, and then kind of see it from there, which I think is kind of a cool little tidbit. Another thing I'd say is try to get out to the hotels. Take some time to go out and explore them because there's a ton of Halloween goodness going on in the hotels. We only really got to Disneyland Hotel, and we got there on Tuesday, which I'll get to in a sec. But it was definitely worth it to go out and do it. Which brings me to my trip to Disneyland Hotel, which I thought was really cool, and I thought was has a lot of artifacts there to see in terms of Disney theming and everything like that. Really the kind of the history of Disneyland when you're first walking into that hallway, if you're into history like myself. Though I will say Abraham Lincoln's attraction, a little bit of a snoozer, if I'm being honest. What is it called?
I mean, what were you expecting? Like,
well, I was, you know what it was? we walked in there, and this was like one of the attractions I wanted to try. Like I was hell bent on doing Abe. Hell bent on doing Abe. Terrible. But I was ready to do it, and they got me really excited because this attraction, for those who don't know, and I believe it's called like the Wonderful Stories with President Abraham Lincoln or something like that. Journey Through Time. I don't know what it is. But the idea behind it is this show was brought to the World's Fair way back in like the early to mid 1930s, and it was directed by Walt Disney himself. And then when Disneyland opened, Walt brought the show as one of the premier attractions in the park. So there's a ton of history behind it. But Erica was going to hit me because I'm building this up as like, can't wait to do it. I'm so excited. I can't wait. She immediately falls asleep. And then had to give me the old Elbski because of the fact that I started snoring during Abe's show. But when you're so tired after a whole day and you sit down and for a kind of a history lesson with Abe, it's nutty. But I will say the end of it was cool because they had the animatronic, and that's a big, considering that this was like way back in the day, creepy as all heck, but it was fun nonetheless.
When did you say that it opened?
But the show was on the World's Fair back in like the 30s. No?
Nope. 1964.
What was it?
1964.
Well, that's when the park opened. But before
no, that's when the World's Fair, the 1964 World's Fair is when the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln debuted.
There you go. All right. Well,
and then it made its opening day in Disneyland the next year.
Well, thank God you're here. Otherwise, someone would take the nonsense I just said as fact when I was clearly ballparking and was off by it. But yeah, what can you do?
I mean, you know, it's fine. It's fine.
Pay like some attention when they're talking rather than just building this all up in my head. But what I will say is being in there in that attraction was also cool because it reminded me of the Modern Family episode. Kind of like a lot of what I was going through when doing the Guardians ride, because obviously I'm a huge wrestling fan, and seeing Dave Bautista as such an integral part of a Disneyland attraction was really cool. Especially he had just returned the next day on SmackDown's 1000th episode. So to see him out there in the attraction and then see him back on Raw on SmackDown the next night, I was feeling the Batista love and proud of him. You know, he's done well for himself. Now, who knows how much longer he'll be a part of the attraction or the franchise rather. But it does make you think, like, if he ends up leaving that Guardians franchise, not only do they have to get rid of him in the movies moving forward and recast, but then they also need to go in the attraction and get rid of him. So he'd really be screwing him up if he ends up leaving. So I think he's going to stay.
Not necessarily. I mean, you know, there are ways around that.
That is true. Yeah, they could probably just even pan the camera away from his character that's in the ride. And they could just
or just say this is him. What are you talking about? Like,
right. It is what it is.
Redub the voice or something. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. But yeah, so then on Tuesday we did do the Goofy's Kitchen. The major selling point of this thing, one of the things I thought was really cool, you had your normal breakfast foods, your Mickey waffles, your Mickey pancakes. Not exactly the tastiest either, I must say. The pancakes, the Mickey pancakes, not like a Mickey pretzel that tastes extra magical goodness. It kind of doesn't really work that way. It's just not so good. But there was a great little create your own omelet station, tons of stuff, tons of desserts, tons of all this different food, and the pizza station. Not only did you have regular pizza, you had, what was it? A chicken and waffles pizza, peanut butter and jelly pizza. I mean, you got to give Goofy credit for coming up with these crazy concoction pizzas that everyone can enjoy.
I've never tried it, so I will.
Well, that was my thing. I went in there and I was like, I'm not going to have any of them. Then I had one of the regular slices, and we had a 7:50 a.m. reservation. So eating pizza that early in the morning. And we get in there. You go see him. He's the first one you see. And then during the show, it's Chip and Dale, and it was supposed to be Mickey and Minnie, but they switched out Mickey for Pluto, which makes sense because Mickey doesn't play second fiddle to anyone. And I also thought this is kind of strange that Mickey's a sub-character of this character dining. But it was fun. And then they had Pluto go do his thing, and he replaced him. It was totally fine. But the food itself, honestly, most of it was kind of, but like that portion of it was cool. And I will say the cast members top notch as always. One thing I will say is it did feel like some of the cast members clearly were friends with the cast members that were, portraying Goofy and everyone else.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I know. But it killed it because it's like as they're walking through, one of the cast members is like, "I'll see you later." I guess that could have been, "I'll see you later" to Goofy himself and hang out with Goofy after he's done. But I thought it was a little.
How else would it be?
I guess you're right. I did put him over for being a smart guy and coming up with these crazy pizza concoctions. But one thing I did notice though, it was weird because we got in. They said, "Hey, and you also have unlimited soft drinks, and you have unlimited coffee and unlimited tea." And it was my birthday celebration. That's still ongoing, by the way. And we did a deal where, hang on 1 second here. Hang on. Okay. So I should just let everyone know what I see on my end. And obviously, if you look at me right now, you could tell I had a major cough attack right over with the mic muted. So from my perspective, all I see is me coughing my brains out over here to the right, and a little portion of Steve on the bottom portion of my little screen, kind of relaxing as I'm coughing up a storm because he can't hear me cough. So it was one of the funnier things there. But yeah, so that the woman, the cast member who was helping us out, had extra up, hey, is there an option to purchase drinks? And I will say that at Disney World, I feel like they'd be like, absolutely. She was like, well, yes, we do also have a full bar if you want anything. And she was like, but I will say the drinks are probably going to cost you about $15 a pop. Now in Disneyland, I'm staying at the world's most crappy smoke den hotel of all time. I don't care how much I need to spend. I want to have a couple of drinks with my breakfast. Like, what was the weirdest thing ever? So I almost wonder if she felt like it's a little early for you guys to be having adult beverages.
She was probably judging you a lot.
Right. Because then afterwards, the table comes in with like 6 kids. They were next to us. Every adult there is mimosas and Bloody Marys. And she's just like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, we do have a bar available, but I should let you guys know that it is an extra charge. And they're like, oh, we don't care. Bring it on. Who cares? And then she was
I mean, part of it also is that I'm sure that they've gotten a lot of people that have ordered drinks and not known that they were extra, and then they get that bill where it's, oh, I'm going to order 6 drinks because, hey, it's unlimited. And then they get that bill for an extra couple $100 and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, that probably is true. But, hey, it was what it was. And then another cast member came over to our table when we were having the drinks and said, hey, guys, I just want to know, how much were those drinks each? And I thought that was weird. I guess not too many people go in there and buy drinks, but I will say there was a major. I thought Goofy's Kitchen, this was going to be like way little kids, and I'd feel out of place. Tons of tables with just adults.
Oh yeah, I mean it was the same thing. When we went to Crystal Palace, and it was the 4 of us. Yeah, it's the same thing. Characters, there's no age, that doesn't like characters except for me and my wife.
Except for who?
Except for us.
You don't like the character dining.
I mean, we like it in certain things. It's just that the problem is a lot of times when you're paying that much money, I also like the food to be good. And a lot of times you kind of run into that very hit or miss experience.
I was going to say that this food quality wise, it was really hit or miss at Goofy's Kitchen. It was like, and I understand, it's tough for Goofy. He's got no thumbs. He's out there, he's making food, and he's doing the best he can. But there was nothing there other than the weird concoctions of pizza that I thought was like super delicious and must eat, if you know what I mean.
Oh, totally.
hang on again here 1 second. What would you say is your favorite character dining experience that you've been to?
Favorite character dining experience that I had, I would say would probably be Tusker House for dinner or 1900 Park Fair for breakfast.
There you go. Excellent. And we'll say then the one of the highlights, kind of the story that broke in Disneyland while we were there, was the ridiculous line outside at the Disneyland Hotel. We had left, and there was a major line. Like, I mean, I'm talking outside and around the pool, all the way into the hotel, all the way around the corner, all throughout the parking lot. Thousands of people were there. And I unfortunately did not get a video of this. I should have. I think in one of the videos, they might be there, but so many people were standing there, and I asked what were they doing, and everyone was online for the Disneyland Tiki mug, the haunted house inspired Tiki mug. Have you heard about this?
Oh, absolutely.
It was a huge deal. Is it also in Florida?
Yeah, it's also at our Trader Sam's too. And I have to say that I've been disappointed that I haven't had an opportunity to go and try and get one. But they're usually sold out within, days, if not minutes.
Well,
the first couple of days, the limited run, and then they just don't have any more.
Well, I think the point of this, I think, was they did have a limited run. There wasn't any more, and they were releasing them at this point. So you had people online. The people towards the front of the line, I asked them what they did. These crazy nuts went to the parks. Disneyland closed at 12, and they walked over to Disneyland Hotel and got online, and didn't open until 10 to get the Tiki mugs. But I will say it was cool of Disneyland. They were out there serving hot chocolate to everyone who was on the line, and free of charge. And it seemed like everyone was just getting a kick out of the idea of being online for these Tiki mugs that, unfortunately, a lot of these Tiki mugs, some of them have ended up on eBay, and you do have people making a quick buck off of selling them for $150, $250. To me, I feel like that's kind of lame when it's something that's such a limited release, but I guess it is kind of just the nature of the beast.
I mean, yeah, capitalism at its finest, my man.
And if you're going to wait online all night long for a Tiki mug and you want to make a couple bucks off it, why not?
Right.
So that does it. That is pretty much what my trip was in a nutshell. If there's anything pressing, I'll let you guys know over on the Twitter. I feel like this has been one of our longer shows. This has to have been our longest show.
About an hour and a half or so, yeah.
An hour and a half. Definitely our longest show there. I somehow got through it. I was able to mute the mic there while getting, coughing it up here. But we made it through. Any questions you have about the trip, Steve, or do you think I explained it in enough detail?
I think you went into exactly the right amount of detail for it.
Thank you very much. I tried not to go crazy. Next week on Disney 101, we will finally be revisiting our plan we had a couple weeks ago, because then my trip kind of showed up, threw everything for a little bit of a frenzy. Real quick, I did just want to say, Max Pass, 2 thumbs up on that. I know that we've reviewed it. I definitely would suggest getting that. Only if you're one of two people. One, you're there for a short trip and you want to maximize your attraction time, especially during Halloween, when you also want to throw in some picture opportunities and character meetups. And if you're a big fan of the Photo Pass makes it worth it. Every photo op under the sun, because they had all the photo ops in Cars Land and everything else. She was loving it. She was getting a kick out of it. And all that was included and then pretty much uploaded instantly onto your Disney app. So I really recommend the Max Pass. That was really good. And if you get in there and you're confused, every cast member has been trained on this and they're ready to help.
Oh, yeah.
So, but next week we will be going into our dream attractions. If you guys have any dream attractions that you'd like to go through, please let us know over on Twitter at Disney101pod. You can also hit me up on Twitter at TommyOnTheSpot. Also, if you're a wrestling fan, you can hit me up on at WatchWrestlePod. Don't throw that out there too much. But with the WWE Evolution pay-per-view this weekend, Ari and I will be attending that live, so we'll have live coverage of that. So I wanted to throw a quick plug in there for that. Steve, anything you'd like to plug?
No, just the usuals.
Well, I appreciate your you've been a I've been enjoying your Instagram recently. Uh,
Oh, the one that's 90% either dogs or books.
oh, it's 100% dogs or books. I was going to say 90% dogs and maybe
Yeah,
10%, but I
yeah,
appreciate it nonetheless.
yeah. Of course, I try.
And keep it locked to this YouTube channel, guys. I'm going to be putting up videos all week from my time over in Disneyland. We got a really fun video of the Mad Hatter teacups, where the Mad Hatter and Alice actually went on the ride. Some footage from the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted House. A little before and after review of the Space Mountains Ghostly Galaxy, and a bunch more fun stuff. So keep that locked. Check that out. And until next time, we will see you soon. Steve, is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No, just everybody have a magical week.